So today we'll be discussing loops in JavaScript. So mainly there are two different types of loops. The first one is for loop and the other one is the while loop. And in this video I'll be talking about for loop and as well the two different types of for loop that JavaScript provides, that is the for in and for off loop. But before jumping onto those, we first need to know what a basic for loop is. So we'll be starting with that. So I'm Akash, you're watching Mr. About Tech, and without any further ado, let's get started. So first, let's talk about where we need a for loop. So we need a for loop when we want to execute a set of statements repeatedly for a certain number of times. So for that purpose we can use a for loop. So there are three main things that a for loop consists, or I can say the three main statements that a for loop should have. So the first statement is the initialization statement. Second one is the condition that we will have to specify, and the third one is increment or decrement. So let me just write a simple example of for loop. So here I'll write for and bracket, and inside it, first statement, as I just said, it is the initialization statement. So here I'm going to write let I is equal to 0. So I have a variable created here and I've set the value of it to 0. Now the next statement is, that is the second statement, is for the condition. So here the condition that I'm going to specify is I is less than 10. So this is a condition that I've specified here. Now the third one is increment or decrement. So here I'm going to specify the increment operation. So for that I'm just going to write the variable name and two pluses after that, and I'll create a block here. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to just print the value of I. So I'm going to just specify this I in console log. Now let's see the output which we are getting. So this is the output that we are getting. Here I's value is going from 0 to 9. So what is exactly happening here? So this first statement, that is the initialization, we initialized the I with the initial value as 0. Then in the next statement we have a condition. So with this condition, what we are doing is we are giving this for loop a breaking point. That means that till this condition is true, the statements that there are in this for loop block are going to be executed, and once this condition is false, then it is going to stop executing the for loop, and it is going to go ahead and execute whatever statements that are there after this for loop. And third thing that we are doing here is we are incrementing this I's value. That is because we don't want this condition to be always true. If we don't increment this, then the condition is going to be always true, as we are not changing the initial value of 0 and it is always going to be less than 10. So that means this loop is going to run till infinity. So we don't want that, and that's why we are incrementing this value, and this value is going to be incremented once this statement is executed. So what is going to happen is this is going to be run. So what is going to happen is from these statements, this statement is going to run first, that is the initialization is going to happen. Then it is going to check that the value is less than 10 or not. So it is less than 10, so it is going to execute this, and we have this value here. Now next time when it goes, then it is going to have this value incremented. That means once this statement is executed, then it is going to increment the value of I. So now the value of I is 1, and it's going to check against this 10, and it is still less, so it is going to again execute this console log. So we have this 1 value. then it's again going to increment the value to 2, then again it's going to check, and this is going to happen until this is false. So that means now let's say if the value that it is printed is 9, now after 9 it has been incremented. All right, now the value is 10. Now it is going to check 10 less than 10, and the statement is now false. So this is not going to be executed now, and it's going to just terminate the loop. So that's how we have this numbers going from 0 to 9. If I specify 1, then it is going to go from 1 to 9, and if I want the 10 also to be included, then I have to write less than and equal to, so it is going to include the 10 as well. So now I have the loop going from 1 to 10. So this is how you write a for loop in JavaScript. Okay, now I want to talk about two keywords that you can use with for loop. One is break and the second one is continue. Now let's first talk about the break statement. So as I said before that we use this condition here to terminate the loop once this condition gets false. But what if we want to break a loop before even this condition is false, and some other condition that we want to specify is not satisfied, then we want to break the loop at that point of time. So we can do it using this break statement. And how we can do it is, let's say that I want to terminate this loop when the I is equal to 5. All right. Okay, so for that what I'm going to do is I'll have an if statement, and I'll write if I triple equal to 5, then I want to break. So if the value of I is 5, then I've written this break and semicolon. That means it is just going to ignore everything that is there in this loop. After this, it is going to just break the loop. If this condition is true, then and then only this break is going to be executed. Till then, this is going to just work as it is. So let's see the output. So as you can see here, the output is just showing the values from 1 to 4, and this is how you can use the break statement. Now the next statement is the continue statement. So break statement is to break out of the loop, so nothing is going to be executed after this. But the continue statement is not going to break loop, it is just going to skip a particular step in the loop. So what do I mean by that is, let me just show you. So now instead of break, I'll write continue and have a semicolon here. So let's see the output. So now as you can see, we are getting the values from 1 to 10, but if you look at here, then you will be able to see that we don't have the value 5 printed here in the console. So after the value 4, we are skipping the value 5 and going straight to 6. So what is happening here is, the continue statement is not going to break the loop, but it is going to skip that particular step in the loop. So when the I is equal to 5, then it is just going to skip this. That means whatever is there in the loop, whatever statements are there, it is going to skip it and go to the next step, and in the next step the I will be incremented and it is going to be 6 now. So of course 6 is going to be less than or equal to 10, so this condition is satisfied, but this condition is now not satisfied, so the console log is going to be executed, and that's how we have the other numbers that are 6, 7, 8 and till 10. So after 10, nothing is going to be executed. So these are the two statements that you can use within a for loop. For loops can also be used to print the values of an array or an object, and you can do it with the for loop that I just showed you, but JavaScript also provides two different types of for loops for doing the same, that is the for in loop and the for off loop. So the for in loop that the JavaScript provides is to loop through the properties of an object. So for that, I'll have a object created here. So this is a basic object, and now what I want is I want to loop through these properties and get the value of all of these the properties that are there in this person object, and I want to print it on the console. Alright, so for that I'll use the for in loop, and in this I'm going to have a variable created. So let I in person. So this is the for in loop. In the loop that we saw previously, we had three different statements that we provided here, but here we just have to provide this. So what this means is that this person's object, it is going to loop through the properties of this person's object, and whatever the property is going to be, that is going to be assigned to this variable, that is I. So now if I console log this I, then let's see what I'm getting. So as you can see that I'm getting these three properties from the person object. So this is what this I contains. So now I want the values as well. How can I get these values? So it's simple. I'll just have this person return, and I'll pass these properties in this square brackets, and I'll get the values of these properties. So now as you can see in this output window that we have the values fetched from these different properties in this person object. So this is how this for in loop works. So this is for the object. Now I also told you that there is one more loop, and that is the for off loop. So the for off loop is to loop through the arrays and strings. So now I'll just comment this, and I'll have an array return here. So let's say that I have this basic array here. So now what I have to do is I want to loop through this cars array. So how I can do that is I'll write a for off loop. So in this I'll write a variable I of cars. So it is similar to this one, but just instead of the in we are writing off. And let's see what we are getting in this I variable. So as you can see, we are getting all the values that there are in this array. So this is how this for off loop works, and as I said, it can also be used on strings. So if I create a string here, so const, and I'll have str with, let's say, my name, and I want to loop through this string, so I'll get these individual characters. So I'll have a for, then let I of str, and console log this I, and let's comment this out, and let's see the output. So here, as you can see that these all the different characters are now printed here individually. So it is looping through all the different characters in this string. So this is how you can use a for off loop on strings as well. So these were the different kinds of loops that the JavaScript provides, and this is how we can use them. So I guess that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.